All right, welcome in, everybody. The first ever Brook Hill podcast, and we're glad you're joining us. It's something we're super excited about, and we decided that there's probably no better place to start than the founder of Brook Hill, Mr. Steve Dement. How are you today?
I'm fine. Good to be here.
We're excited about visiting with you about a number of things, and our goal for this podcast really is to kind of showcase our people, and even you. You're someone who people know. They know what you do, and they know who you are, but we want them to get to know you a little bit better because I think it's easy in our roles for people to know us as our role and not just as a person. So let's start here. Tell me a little bit about you growing up, where you. I know you're born and raised in Tyler, but how was growing up and kind of what was your childhood like and what kind of developed you into who you are today?
My family's been in East Texas a long time. My dad's family moved to Dialville, Texas, just south of Jacksonville, in 1848, and my mom's family moved from Indiana to Arp in 1852.
Wow.
So we've been around a long time and grew up in Tyler, went to Tyler Public Schools, had a great experience. I was the only child, so I felt special. That changed after I went to college and realized I was not the only one. But anyway, it was a lot of fun.
So you graduated from Tyler schools, went to Baylor.
Went to Baylor.
Talk a little bit about Baylor.
Baylor was one of the best experiences of my life because I joined a fraternity, Sigma Chi, and all of a sudden had dozens of brothers. And being an only child, that was a new experience.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of fun to get to know them. It was a Christian-based fraternity,
right?
National fraternity, but still Christian-based, and really had a great time. I got involved in student government, heavily involved in that, as well as my fraternity, and somehow managed to graduate with some degrees. So
there you go.
Yeah,
that's the goal. Sometimes we forget that, right? I've had to remind my son Luke, and who you had in class, obviously, but I had to call him a few weeks ago. I'm like, hey man, you're there for class, but they figured that out. So I know Baylor probably played a huge part in your faith journey too. Talk about your faith journey and how that came to be.
I became a Christian when I was 8, and there was no life, shattering experience or anything because I tell people I started going to church 9 months before my mother, had me, before I was born, and I did. We were there every Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, choir, training union, Sundays, all that. And so my faith journey was gradual. It wasn't just an earth-shattering experience, like I said, but it was a kind of a journey through those first 8 years of realizing how important faith was and who God was and who Jesus was. Sat down with my pastor. He explained it very clearly, and I made that decision at 8. Grown ever since, had ups and downs in my faith journey, obviously. One regret I have about at Baylor is that I was in a position of leadership, president of student congress and vice president of student body and things like that. And I really didn't use those platforms to further the faith as I could have.
Right.
I was too involved in having fun with fraternity and my friends. And I didn't do anything bad necessarily, but I could have done a lot more to spread the gospel than I did. And that's a regret I have.
Yeah, and that's kind of a good point you bring up because I think that happens, right, to a lot of people to where, especially in an environment like Baylor or even at Brook Hill, right, to where faith is so prevalent in what we talk about and what we do that it's easy sometimes to be like, okay, well, we're covering that, right?
You take it for granted.
And I know you've heard Sean Rhodes say this before too, but he just talks so much about it's kind of a dangerous spot for some of our kids who have grown up in the church because they hear about it all the time and they hear at Brook Hill every day. And you're right, it's not – I mean, I think some people do take it for granted, but also it almost just becomes noise a little bit, and that's kind of a scary thing. And that's something you want to.
You have to be intentional.
You do, and that's hard for teenagers, right? Because there's so many other things, and especially now for them, there's so many other distractions that they face. All right, so you're at Baylor, and you're involved in all these things. You're involved in student government. I have to believe that's part of where some of your love for government and history and those things came about. I know you're huge into those. Talk about how that love is born, because that's something that is obviously, when I think of Mr. Dement, I think of Brook Hill, and I think of the love you have for government and military and history and those things.
My dad served in World War II in the South Pacific, and used to tell stories about his time there. That inspired a high respect for our veterans and our military. I had a high school history teacher that was so passionate, you couldn't help but catch his excitement. And so those two things kind of moved me to liking patriotism, our military, history, all those things. And so I took courses in college, and it just kind of spread over, and here we are.
And what's awesome about that to me is that you've taken that love that you have and have really implemented that in a lot of our kids who maybe don't have that same desire that you did at that age, but they know things now that most teenagers don't know because you've given them experiences, you've taken them to meet people and brought people in and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be cool for you to see kids as that light clicks for them also.
It's very cool. Very humbling, but it's very cool to see.
So all those things take place, and at some point, well, before I get there, when you were at Baylor, what did you think you were going to do? What was your plan for your life at that point?
Well, it actually started in high school. I was under an incredible Sunday school teacher by the name of Tracy Crawford.
Okay.
Still here in Tyler. He worked for the Ramey firm, and I admired him immensely, a great mentor, a great example. He was a lawyer, of course, and so that's what I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so all the way through Baylor, that was my goal, to get a law degree. I did that and stayed an extra year and got an MBA.
There you go.
Because I wasn't ready to leave. I was having too much fun with my friends. So that was a good excuse to spend another year at Baylor.
For sure.
Glad I did. It's helped me to have an MBA, but the purpose was law school, becoming a lawyer.
And so obviously you get the law degree and those kind of things, but then at some point there's this change in you that you're like, God's calling me to start this school. Talk a little bit about that, because I know people have heard this story, but to hear it from you is different.
I started teaching Sunday school to high school kids the year after I got out of school, after I got out of college and came back home. Fell in love with that, enjoyed being around the kids. And then I saw a movie in the late 1980s by the name of the Dead Poets Society.
Yeah.
And that movie really instilled in me a love for students, a love for teaching. Saw the need that kids had to feel wanted and loved and have a purpose. And so that kind of planted a seed in my mind.
Yeah.
In 1989, I believe it was, I was invited to be a part of a Bible study. And in that Bible study, we were discussing work and how God can use an average person in their work environment to accomplish his purposes, and how biblical work is. It's a gift of God to be able to work and produce and all that. And so through that Bible study, we appreciated work, started talking about how we could serve Christ in that setting, whatever work we might have. And part of the experience was being analyzed by a Christian psychologist from Connecticut by the name of Ralph Mattson.
Yeah.
And so he spent hours with each one of us going through questions. We drew up a life map from as far back as we could remember to present, all of our likes, dislikes, good experiences, bad experiences. And he analyzed all that, and he came to me when I had our final session, and he said, "You need to be the head of school at a struggling Christian school."
Wow.
And that hit me like a bombshell, because here I was, at that point in time, I was an attorney working at a title insurance company, and no formal educational background as far as teaching, or certainly not starting a school. And so I asked him, I said, "Where did you come up with that?" And so he started pointing out things in my history that made perfect sense.
Yeah.
When I joined my fraternity at Baylor, it was a struggling fraternity. I only had about 28 members. We built it into a fraternity of over 100. Several other things at Baylor that kind of reflected that idea of taking something and building it into something better. And then teaching kids at church, at First Baptist in Tyler, and several other things he pointed out. The title company, took that, and it was just getting started and building it into the largest one in East Texas.
Right.
And so he said, "You've got all these things in your history. It makes perfect sense." And it was like looking at myself in the mirror for the first time.
Yeah.
I never realized all that. I'd never connected the dots. And so from that point on, I began taking steps slowly, but a step at a time, to try to start some type of Christian educational experience here in East Texas.
While I'm sitting here listening to you, did you ever talk to that guy again and let him know? Like, does he know the story of
He's
Brook Hill?
deceased, and I don't know if he ever knew fully what had happened.
Golly.
Yeah.
And so there's got to be a little bit of doubt in your mind, right? Like, I know you connect the dots and you hear this, but is there ever a moment where you're like, maybe this guy's not telling me? I mean,
once I started down that path, there was no.
You knew.
I knew, no question.
And you were right. You were right.
There's no question.
Okay, so you decide this is what you're going to do, and you start talking to other people about this, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking about the story of Noah and the ark a little bit, right? And Noah's out there building this ark, and people are looking at him like, what are you doing? Was there ever that moment you get that reaction from people like, this guy wants to build a school here?
Yeah. They said, you're crazy, building a school in Bullard?
Yeah.
You know, and even some other Christian schools in Tyler, the people would say, why don't you come join us? You know, why are you doing this? We're already here. But that wasn't my calling.
Yeah.
It was to do something different. Not church affiliated. We could be independent. We're not a covenant school, so we can appeal to everyone and fulfill the Great Commission that covenant schools really can't. And so we knew we needed to do this particular method and style of Christian education.
And so I know there are a lot of people involved early on with getting this thing off the ground. It starts off with one building in one room. Kind of talk through those early years, because I'm sure in those early years it was like, okay, if this is a plan, what's next?
We were trying to figure out how to get the thing started because we didn't have the funds to, build a school or anything like that. And so the idea came up, why don't we have a sports camp?
Yeah.
And get our feet wet, have a sports camp. So we began doing that. We did it for 2 years, summer of 95 and 1996. And we had an equestrian program, a golf program out at Emerald Bay. We had baseball, and we had soccer. Those were the 4 sports. And the first week of camp in 1995, we had, I think, 14 coaches and 8 campers.
Wow.
And I'm sure they felt very special.
Good ratio.
It slowly grew, and we did it the second year. So we kind of got our name out a little bit.
Right.
But that was how we actually got started. And we built the cabin as the camp headquarters. It was built in 1995. It's the coffee shop today. And then from that point on, you want me to go into the next step
I'd love to hear it.
Here?
Absolutely.
We did that, and still trying to figure out how to get a school started. And so one day, we went ahead and incorporated the Brook Hill School, Inc., nonprofit corporation. Did that early on. Of course, purchased the initial 72 acres that we're sitting on here now, the main campus is on. And we were trying to figure out how to get going. And one of the people on our board, Ben Lauderdale, said, I have some friends in Tyler that might be interested in getting involved in this project. So he brought Louise and Joseph Ornelas out one Sunday afternoon. And never forget it. Excuse me. We drove them around, nothing but pastures really, and a couple of ball fields. And drove them around, explained the vision. They were very courteous and nice. And then they drove away, and I said, well, that was nice. I'm glad to know who they are.
Yeah.
Week later, get a phone call from a gentleman in Houston.
Okay.
He identified himself as the financial advisor to the Ornelises. And he said, I need your bank account number.
Oh.
Of course.
Yeah, this seems shady.
Yeah, my reaction was, oh, yeah, really? Who are you? He convinced me that he was real, and so I said, why do you need my bank account number? He said, well, the Ornelises have instructed me to deposit $1 million in your account.
Wow.
To help the school get started. And so that was the beginning of our relationship with the Ornelises.
Yeah.
So we had those funds in hand. I called Mike Butler, who was also on our board, an architect, and said, we need to draw up some plans. We need to get going. Oh. And so he did, and we constructed Ornelas Hall and Harrington Sports Center. Those were the two buildings, with not one student enrolled. So it literally was a step of faith to do that.
Yeah.
But and then we opened our doors September 2nd, I believe, 1997, with 31 kids, grades 6 through 8.
And now here we are with 900.
925 today, yeah.
Wow. So I had the privilege, and it just by chance, to be standing beside you this year on the first day of school in chapel. The one day we had middle school and upper school chapel, and you looked at me and you said, it's hard to believe it's year 29. And as you look back from that time until now, and you're 29, maybe what do you see that you were like, yes, this is what I thought, or what do you see and say, this is maybe not what I expected, but it's even better?
It's kind of interesting, Jeremy, because when this vision came to me, and I don't mean to seem too ethereal or anything, but it was a vision that came to me.
Right.
I could literally see the faces of kids.
Yeah.
And I remember what they looked like. That this is what we're going to have. So in some ways, there is no surprise, but in other ways, there is a surprise. And the two things that surprised me that were not on the radar were the lower school and football.
Yeah.
One of the schools that I went to study how it operated before we got Brook Hill going was the Stony Brook School in New York.
Okay.
And they didn't have a lower school. And so that really never was on my radar. Let's just do middle and upper school and do it well. Football, very expensive.
Yeah.
A lot of insurance and liability and things like that. So that never was on the radar. I credit those two things that we have now to Rod Fletcher.
Mm-hmm.
When he came, our head of school, I think his first year was 2005, fall of 2005, I believe, or maybe 4. But he really was passionate about those two things.
Mm-hmm.
And so we began those programs. It's been a blessing. Changed the culture of the school.
Absolutely.
Both of those programs. And to get those off going, another interesting thing that many people don't know about, he had been here about a month, I guess. And Ms. Ornelas paid him a visit, unannounced. And she said, I would really like to see football.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I helped start the program, fund the program at ETBU.
Okay.
And she said, I think it would really make a difference in Brook Hill. And she said, and I know you want to do some other things, so here's a check to get that started.
Wow.
And the check was for $9 million.
Whew.
Totally unsolicited. Obviously a God thing.
For sure.
And so we immediately began planning for a lower school. We opened initially at the church across the street while we were constructing lower school. Excuse me. And then, of course, football got going. I think 2008 maybe was the first year.
Somewhere close to that, yeah.
2007, 2008.
That is, and that's, not that you needed it because you knew you were following God's plan, but that's just confirmation when somebody else believes in that so much that says, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I do want to go back because we're talking about different things and different aspects of the school. When did the boarding aspect, was that something that you thought from the very beginning, or was that a thing,
No,
a change?
that was from the very beginning. The schools that I happened to visit up in the Northeast, it was Stony Brook in New York, the Hill School in Pennsylvania, St. Andrews in Delaware, St. James in Maryland, Avon Old Farms in Connecticut, Deerfield Academy in Massachusetts. Visited all those schools, and of course, the common thread there was boarding.
Right.
And so that was kind of a neat aspect because you can bring in kids from all over, which enriches your local kids,
For sure.
but also gives these international kids especially an idea of what America is about,
Right.
Christianity, things of that nature. So that was always on the plate. I thought it would be great, back in the 90s, there's a lot of conflict in Northern Ireland. And so I thought it would be great. Let's bring in a Catholic and a Protestant and teach them that they can live together. And then maybe they can go home and spread that, cooperative spirit in their homeland. Maybe kids from the Balkans, bring them in.
Yeah.
Teach them how to live together. So that's kind of how it started.
Yeah.
And, of course, here we are with 120 from
say,
37 countries.
Right. And it goes so much beyond that now to where not only is it a boarding school, kids can come and get a great education, which is what we're known for in a lot of those circles. Then they come here and they're hearing about the Lord. They're hearing about Christianity and what that means. And it's so, as someone who's been here now, to see multiple kids who have come through here and spent all 4 years, and they leave here with an understanding of who God is and as a Christian, and it's just changes their life.
Yeah.
And the education's great. And that's the truth. And you know this, and I've been fortunate enough to be really close with a number of boarding students that have gone through that change, and it brings it back into perspective for us. Number one, what we're here for and why we do it.
Exactly.
But just we go back to the very beginning of our conversation about taking things for granted, and like so many kids come here and they don't hear about this at home, and it's really not something they can go back home and be very vocal about at the beginning because it's so rejected. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's absolutely unbelievable. I do want to ask you this because you've mentioned a lot of people along the way. You mentioned Ben Lauderdale and Rod and the Ornelas family. One of the things I've always heard you say, and I love this as we kind of draw it back to our people, is you've kind of compared Brook Hill to an orchestra, and that just at the right time, God brings the right people in for different purposes and different things. Talk about that, because I know you've seen a lot of people come here and you've seen them leave and you've seen new people come in. And I think the one thing that's that has not changed is it's always the people that are needed at that time, right?
I have compared Brook Hill to a symphony. God's the director, and he does bring in just the right people. And when those people have finished their part, then they leave.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're sad, but God has something. He has another stanza to have, to play. And so other people come in. It's just been a very orchestrated, I hate to use that word again, but that's what it's been.
Yeah.
The whole Brook Hill story is just the right people are here at the right time. Some are long-term because you need that in a musical piece, and some are there just for the cymbals. And it's been interesting to watch.
I can say this with great certainty, and I hope I've told you this before, and if not, I hope you understand. I am very fortunate. I feel very fortunate to be a part of this for as long as I have. This is hard to believe. This is my 13th year around Brook Hill.
Wow.
And it's I feel like it was just yesterday.
Yeah.
And
I feel the same way.
Yeah. It's been such a blast to be a part of this, and such a God thing in so many ways for our family, to be a part of this, and our kids are so much better as people and as students and as athletes because of being here. And so I speak for a lot of people, and I tell you thank you for following God's plan, because so many people, if they were to get that word like, we want you to start a school, a boarding school in Bullard, Texas, in the middle of a pasture, a lot of us would have been like, maybe I'm hearing this wrong. But thank you for doing that. All right, let's have a little fun now. I'm going to ask you some questions. I got 6 questions. I want you to answer off the top of your head. No, nothing. It's nothing going to trick you yet. We'll get there in a minute.
You didn't tell me about this.
Well, that's part of the fun. Okay. Some of them are serious. Some of them are definitely not.
Okay.
All right. You can only eat at one restaurant for the rest of your life. What is it?
Peepersall.
Okay, that's fair. Get a good steak. All right. Favorite character in the Bible, but it can't be Jesus.
So many.
There are.
Stephen.
Okay. Any particular reason?
He wasn't afraid to stand up for his beliefs.
There you go. That fits.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you're a golfer, maybe you're not, but you'll get the camaraderie piece of this. You get to play one round of golf. 3 people in the history of the world. Who do you want to spend that time with?
Winston Churchill.
Okay.
And I'm not going to go to the Bible.
Okay, that's fair.
They played golf.
That's fair.
Winston Churchill would be one.
Okay.
I think Stonewall Jackson would be another. And James Madison.
Okay. All great leaders, huh? That's fitting as well. All right. Best piece of advice somebody ever gave you?
I think this probably came from several people, and so I've kind of put it together in one statement that I tell people a lot of times. Always do the right thing at the right time, in the right way, for the right reason.
It covers a lot.
Yep.
If you do those things. All right, this is an interesting question. You're one of the people that when I thought about this question, I thought, this is a great answer. I don't need to break any national security codes here or anything, but most famous contact in your phone today that you can tell me about?
The most famous phone number I have in my phone?
But most famous contact in your phone today?
Probably Sean Hannity.
That's a good one. I actually thought that might be your answer.
Yeah.
Which is really cool to have that connection at times. All right, this one's a little personal. Obviously, what's the one thing 50 years from now you want to be remembered for?
That I loved kids and wanted them to know Jesus.
Man, I have a feeling when we ask people that question, that's going to be the answer we get a lot. I hope, because I think that's the truth. All right, last thing here. This is a little fun. This is a little. We're going to play a game every time we have the podcast here. Okay, 6 random trivia questions.
Okay.
Completely random generated from online, which,
Okay.
of course, everything online is true. We're going to keep score and see who's the best. So you're the guinea pig here for me. These are completely random, but it knew you were coming on because there's a couple you're going to get pretty easy, I think. All right, here's the first one. Which freezes faster, hot water or cold water?
Hot water.
It is hot water. There's some fancy word for this in science that I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
You're off to a hot start. How many states does the Appalachian Trail cross?
I have to mentally look at my map.
There you go. People watch right now, they're trying to figure out where the Appalachian Trail is even.
6?
It's actually a lot more than that. It was more than I thought. It's 14.
Oh, my goodness. That's right, because it goes all the way up.
It goes
to
all
New
the way to
England.
the New England area. It's
Oh,
got to be
goodness.
what
Yeah,
it
I
is.
stopped at Pennsylvania. Okay, never mind.
All right. This is where we're going to find out your pop culture knowledge here. Richard Hatch was the first winner of which reality show?
I have no clue.
Survivor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not into reality shows.
Yeah,
so.
that's fair, and it's honestly a show that I could never go on of all the reality shows out there. All right, this is the one I think the computer knew you were coming on today. I feel like I'm wasting my time even asking you this. Which U.S. president died of gastroenteritis while still in office? Oh.
I think it might have been Zachary Taylor.
It was Zachary Taylor.
Okay.
This is not fair. The computer knew. All right, you're going to know this one too, I think. What was the first message sent by Morse code?
Morse code. That's different from the telephone.
It is.
I know the telephone. Was it Watson something?
It was not. Actually, it was by Samuel Morse himself, and it was actually from a Bible verse from Numbers 23:23.
I did not know.
It says,
that.
"What hath God wrought?" was what he sent.
Oh,
And he sent it from,
Okay,
I was about to
yes,
say, he sent
I
it from
remember.
Washington, D.C. to Baltimore.
that's right. I remember that.
I'm learning stuff here as
Yeah.
well. All right, last one. This is
Okay.
a fun one. And according to Instacart, which is an online shopping service, what is the most disliked food in America?
Disliked.
The most
food.
disliked food in America.
I know what my most disliked food. Disliked food. Like Chinese, Mexican, whatever?
No,
or
like it's a specific item.
specific item.
Mm-hmm.
Liver and onions.
Well, that'd be a good guess. Anchovies.
Really? Well,
I mean,
I agree.
yeah,
with
I'm
that.
not doing that either.
I
Not
agree
doing
with
that.
Yeah.
Mr. Dement, I appreciate you coming
Sure,
on.
thank you.
It's
It's been fun.
such a blast to hear from you and to hear God's heart or God's plan for you and your heart to follow that. And I know, like I said, so many people are so thankful for what you've done.
It's been a fun journey. So thank
And
you.
it's not over. That's
No,
the
it's
great
not.
thing.
It's not.
There's a lot more to come,
Yeah.
and that's exciting. All right, so that's it for today. Next up, our head of school, Braxton Brady, will be with us on the next episode. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.